A question, Doctor, regarding Maqasid Sharia, Islam and democracy, does it go hand in hand, or is democracy is just a means toward a bigger end?
Democracy is not an end. Democracy is means. Any human developed system is means and is evolving. And we might discover better ways of governance and better ways of alternation of power as we go, as humanity. We need democracy as Muslims today because we have a number of problems that are chronic in our Islamic history and Islamic experience of politics, prime of which is the alternation of power. How can we alternate power between competing parties or competing tribes or competing whatever it is? Our history in terms of alternation of power is full of bloodshed, and until today, in fact, power alternates between different forces in the Muslim world with a lot of bloodshed. We can learn from the wisdom of the Western experience with democracy in terms of the alternation of power for a chronic problem that we have in the Muslim world, that people have elections, and when they vote somebody, in a fair elections of course, when they vote somebody, then that person becomes a leader. And then the leader has a term, and you have another leader. I remember our Sheikh Muhammad Ghazali, rahimahullah, one of the great sheikhs of the 20th century. Once in a lecture, he told us something very funny. He said, if we had democracy from the beginning of Islam, Muslims would have voted between Ali and Muawiyah. And perhaps then we could have solved a problem that cost us a lot of bloodshed. So why not? He's saying, had we accepted the concept of public voting during that time, maybe we would have avoided the fitna that happened in Mawqa'at al-Jamal. And that is very true. And why not? One of my brothers was saying, but this is a non-Muslim system. And I told him, well, al-hikmah dalatul mu'min. The Prophet ﷺ said, wisdom is what the believer seeks anywhere. If we find wisdom in the East or the West, we should seek wisdom. And as I mentioned in my note here, democracy itself is a system that is evolving, and we should not take it for granted. We should be able to critique democracy in its different forms. And we should be able to develop democracy in a way that perhaps could be the Muslim contribution to democracy, because the West needs development of democracy as well. It's not set in stone. It's something that requires a lot of, if you wish, ethical questioning. That is, I think, the major problem with democratic practices and multi-party systems, the ethics of it. And the principles, and how the principles could develop democracy in a way that is best not only for Malaysia but for humanity. So I think Maqasid al-Sharia, and I'm so happy that it is part of the curriculum of this forum, is part of that questioning and that development of the idea in order for the idea to be an Islamic compliant idea, Sharia compliant, but not in the attire sense, in the real sense, in the essence sense. Inshallah.